Well, the DoorDash, Uber, and Lyft strike absolutely failed. My name is Blake Moore. Welcome to More Driven. On this channel, I talk all things gig work, all the apps that I use. I try and give you guys the best knowledge that I've gained over the past 6 years of using them so that you guys can make as much money as you possibly can. Now, this week I've been uploading every single day because there was that strike going on and it fueled some things that I wanted to talk about. We've had some great videos, so if you've missed those, go ahead, check them out, watch them, and then come back and watch this video. But in this video today, we are going to be talking about how the DoorDash strike failed, what we should do next, and if DoorDash drivers will ever receive fair pay, and also the difference between DoorDash, Uber, and Lyft in terms of what actually is fair pay. So make sure you subscribe. We're going to get right into things. So I didn't go out on Valentine's Day. I spent the day with my wife, but I did look to see if things were extra busy because they would have shown up on the apps as being really busy. And there probably would have been a lot of bonus pay had people actually been on strike. And so I checked the DoorDash map, wasn't anything different than I normally see. It wasn't any busier. And in fact, I would have expected it to show busier than it even did on a normal Valentine's Day. So even if Dashers hadn't been on strike or supposedly been on strike during a Valentine's Day, I would have expected to see it busier. So I think maybe more people were out on the road than normal on Valentine's Day. So definitely with DoorDash, did not do anything in terms of how busy it was. And also that goes to show that a lot of Dashers were still on the road. Didn't make any difference on orders getting delivered. And I think the only thing it did do was what this person commented. I'm actually going to read it because it was like one of my favorite comments I've seen in a while. He said, "Yes, it'll make Tony laugh his A off while he's driving his Lambo down to his yacht. That's about it." I genuinely think that's all the DoorDash strike did this time, unfortunately. But in looking more into the DoorDash strike, it wasn't necessarily supposed to be for DoorDash drivers, if that makes sense. Yes, DoorDash drivers could strike if they wanted to, but it was more focused on rideshare, Uber and Lyft. I looked at some of the photos and it didn't seem like any of the people who were actually at some of the rallies were talking about DoorDash whatsoever. It was actually all just Uber and Lyft. And I'm actually going to get into how Lyft has changed their pay in one of the videos in the next coming days because it's kind of a big deal. But yeah, overall, in terms of DoorDash, definitely didn't do anything. So what is next? What can we do about DoorDash pay? I mean, is it always just going to suck? Because for the past little while, it has in a lot of areas. Now, I know there's people who are going to comment that it's really good in their area, which is great. Like, that makes me happy for you. If you're in a great area where you're making really good money, if you have a Prius and you don't have to drive many miles to complete orders, then congratulations. Like, genuinely, I am happy for you guys because it is a great gig when everything's going right. When the miles are short, the pay is good, you have a great car, all of that stuff is amazing. Nothing's going out on your car and all that jazz. When that is happening, that is amazing. So for those of you who have it like that, that's awesome. I hope it continues that way for you. But from reading through all of my comments, from talking to people that I know, from actually experiencing it myself, for the majority of DoorDash drivers, it is really bad right now. So what can we do? Is there anything we can do? Well, I have a couple proposals that I've come up with on things we could do, things that might actually work. And then I'm going to be talking about the reality of the situation. So a couple things that I think we need to understand as a DoorDash driving community is that DoorDash does not care. I've been talking about this since the dawn of my YouTube channel, that unfortunately, DoorDash just could not care less about their drivers. They have so many people who are willing to deliver bad orders. No matter how much we talk about it and how much we would like our quote unquote employer to give one tiny fraction of a crap about us, it's just not going to happen. They have endless people on waiting lists. Endless people on waiting lists who will immediately get on and take every single order. And I actually saw something pretty insane that when the strike was going on, DoorDash immediately put out a reward for $800 to $1,200 if you refer someone to sign up for DoorDash. That is just their way of saying a big middle finger to us. Like, strike all you want, never come back and work, preferably for our platform. We do not want you if you think you're not getting paid enough. So for the people who are wanting to work, go ahead, invite people. We're going to pay you an extra $1,200, and then we're going to get more brand new people on here who are fine with taking every single order. That's the unfortunate reality of everything. And I think there's only a couple things that we actually can do to change this. But unfortunately, I don't think these things are even really possible because, I mean, check this out. I made a list. So I'm looking at my laptop over here. The first thing we could do is unionize, which I don't know how you go about doing that, but that's what UPS drivers are. They're a union, and a lot of other drivers are a union. But as far as I'm aware, which I should have done more research before I talked about this, to be honest with you guys. But I'm trying to pump out a video every day, so I don't have a whole lot of time. But I'm pretty sure in order to be a union, everyone has to make the exact same amount of money. So I don't even know if that would be possible without completely changing everything. It would have to go back to a pay structure of more like how it was before 2018 when every order was the exact same pay, which would be a little bit messed up. I don't know if it would have to be same pay based on state, but like I know I shouldn't be making the same as someone who lives in LA or New York because I'm just in a suburb in Utah. So like I don't know how that would work exactly, but if we did unionize, then a strike would actually make sense because even if you wanted to work, you couldn't, type of a thing. So we could create a union and have spokespeople for DoorDash drivers, maybe elect them. Like I said, again, I don't know exactly how a union works. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about it if I didn't do my own research. But that's just something I thought of. I was like, if we created a union, we could have a spokesperson who was elected by the DoorDash drivers, something like that, that would have direct contact with Tony or with the board of directors or executives at DoorDash. And the way I was thinking about it was similar to how the NBA runs. Now, I'm a huge basketball fan, so I know a lot about how the owners of the NBA teams work directly with the NBA Players Association. And so the way this works is there's a president of the Players Association, and then he has all of his like people who are below him essentially. And everyone, I think, votes on who that representative is, who the president of the Players Union is, and then they negotiate every couple of years with the owners on the split that they get in terms of revenue and all sorts of different things. So the way that would work with us is we would vote on a president of the Dashers Union. They would be in direct negotiation with the DoorDash executives, and we would have to negotiate on a pay structure every so often, just like the NBA does with their players and their owners, write up a new contract every so often, and if one side isn't budging, then there's no orders getting delivered. So the president of the Dashers Union could say, we automatically get 80% of whatever the customer is paying, you guys get 20%, and let's just do away with tips, or we split the tips 80-20 as well. Like everything is 80-20, even the tips. Or we say we want a minimum of $3 base pay plus every extra mile above 5 miles, we want an extra $1 per mile after that, or whatever it is that we came up with. They would be able to negotiate that with the DoorDash executives. And I think you could even do that on a state-by-state basis. Have a president of the Dashers Union of Utah, of California, of Texas, of whatever state you're in, there's a Dashers Union specific to that state because obviously things are going to be different. I know in my area, I have to drive a lot more miles because everything is so spread out. But if you're in a city like Boston or New York or something, there's probably not a lot of long distance rides that you're doing. I mean, I could be wrong about that. But for me, driving 7 miles might only take me 10 minutes. But in New York, driving 7 miles might take an hour. So there's a big difference in things like that, which is why I think you'd have to do it on a state-by-state basis. And I think something like that would work. I don't know how we would go about even starting something like that. And I don't think something like that would ever even get put into place because both parties would have to agree that that was the case. DoorDash executives would have to agree upon that, which I don't know why they would because the way they pay their Dashers, they're fine with. And they have a lot of people who are willing to still deliver for them. So unfortunately, like I said, that's just going to be hard to implement. But something like that could work. And that I think that's kind of the best way to go about it. But now that I think about it, I don't think if you're a union, you have to get paid the same. It would have to be like the same split per order, but not the same, because I just realized that NBA players all get paid differently. So I don't really know why I was thinking that. But anyway, on to the next thing we can do. The next thing I think we could do is just continue to make as much content about the DoorDash pay and how messed up it is, and continue to try and get the word out there so that maybe it catches wind to the right person or to the right amount of people, and just keep trying to display like, hey, the DoorDash customer paid this much for their order in fees. They paid $14 in fees, and we're only getting a $2 base pay out of that. Or just show stuff like that. Even asking customers, hey, how much did you tip on this order? See if it matches up with the tip you're receiving. I've done that before, and some of the time, the tip that you receive is not the tip that the customer left you. It's really weird. So that's the next thing I think that would help, is just getting the word out there, making as much content about things as possible, starting your own channel. The more DoorDash channels, the better, in my opinion. Just continuing to show what it's actually like to be a DoorDash driver, what the pay is like, what the expenses are like, just getting the word out there as best as we can. And then the next thing we could do, which is feasible, but it would be extremely hard, and that would be to just make our own platform, have it a driver central platform where everyone who's on DoorDash just completely transfers over to this new app. Maybe it's called Driver or something. I don't even know what it would be called, but it's just, it does the same thing as DoorDash, but it's run by drivers, so that we actually could implement whatever pay structure we want. The drivers would get paid the majority of whatever the customer pays. Obviously, there has to be a tiny bit of a fee to keep the app running and do things like that, but just having a platform where the driver would actually get full control of their pay. Creating something like that would take a lot of upfront cost, a lot of raising money, a lot of software engineers, a lot of stuff like that. Basically, we would just be competing head to head with DoorDash, which I actually like that idea. If there was a DoorDash driver out there who knew how to do that, knew how to raise the money and execute on that, I think that would be the best way to just say a big F you to DoorDash, because that way the app would be run by drivers and we could actually implement all the things based on a majority vote from the drivers that we want to implement. Now, the next thing we could do is boycott any low-paying order, which has been talked about for years now. And unfortunately, this one is one of the hardest things that we can do, because not everyone knows about it. Not everyone is on YouTube watching videos like this. Not everyone's looking on DoorDash Reddit or DoorDash TikTok or anything like that. They just mind their own business. They're just doing DoorDash, completely oblivious of all of these things that go on. So it's super hard to say, okay, don't accept lowball offers or don't accept any orders that are less than this, because unless every single person is doing it, then those orders will still get delivered eventually. And so it does nothing. So if you personally are just boycotting certain orders, then it absolutely does nothing, unfortunately. Like, yes, you're doing it for a good cause, and yes, in purpose it matters, but unfortunately in reality, it does absolutely nothing, because that order is still getting dropped off by someone who has never even come across the idea of declining lowball offers. They're completely ignorant to the entire DoorDash community space that lives on social media. So that one's going to be hard to execute on. And then the next one would be to have another strike, but not go back to delivering until the pay is changed. You can't just go on strike for a day or an afternoon or even a week. Like, you have to strike until the pay structure is changed. That's what you have to do. That's the whole point of a strike. And like, going back to my basketball analogy, when the executives don't meet an agreement with the players, they go on lockout. There is no NBA games played until there is a contract that meets both parties' agreement. Because a normal NBA season is 82 games. There have been seasons where there's only 60 games played because they could not reach an agreement in time. So then both parties are just losing money at that point, and it kind of forces them to reach an agreement sooner. So if something like this were to happen, where we could get everyone on board, or I would say at least 90% of people on board for a strike that lasted until something actually changed, that would be great. But unfortunately, that's almost impossible to execute on again, because It would be really hard to get the word out to every single driver, and it would be really hard for a lot of people to hold out and not make any money during that time. It might last a whole month. And a lot of people out there, especially from reading all of the comments on my channel, cannot afford to even strike one day. They have bills to pay. I mean, inflation's crazy. It's hard to make a living these days. So people can't just strike for weeks on end until the pay changes. So again, that in theory would work great, going on a strike for weeks on end until something changed, but it's almost impossible to execute on because of what I just said. So yeah, that would work. Unfortunately, that's just never going to happen. So now I kind of wanted to get into the Uber and Lyft side of things. With Uber and Lyft, it's a little bit different because the entire platform, in a sense, is less appealing. They do need more drivers. It is harder to get people to do these platforms. So we have a little bit more of a say because with DoorDash, so many people are wanting to do it. It's a lot easier than doing Uber and Lyft. It's a lot safer. It's a lot more appealing to a lot more people. And then with Uber and Lyft, you're also driving a lot more miles. So the pay is a lot more important because you're driving so many more miles. It is way more important for Uber and Lyft to have a pay structure where it's not dependent upon tips, where you can still make decent money and pay all of your expenses as well. So with DoorDash, I try and do anything above $1 per mile. That's what I like to do. And like I said, my area is really spread out. So it's not the same as being in the city, taking a $7 for a 7-mile order. It is a little bit different. But with me on DoorDash, I try and do $1 per mile, or anything above that, obviously, I'll accept. And then sometimes during the slower hours, I'll take a $12 order for 13 miles maybe if it's taking me into a nice busy area or something like that. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, but that's kind of my rule of thumb. But with Uber and Lyft, it's a lot different. I don't base anything off of the miles. I base it all off of the time it's going to take me to drop the person off. So there might be a ride that is $15 for 20 miles, but it's only going to take me 25 minutes to do because it's all freeway miles. Well, I'm going to take that order because one, freeway miles are better on your car, so you can actually get more miles out of your car if you're driving more on the freeway and not so much stop and go in the city. And you get better gas mileage, obviously, so you're not spending as much on gas. And then the third thing is because if I can get $15 in just 20 minutes, then I'm on track for a great hour. And that's not even including the tip that the driver might leave me. So Uber and Lyft pay is a lot different. I do think you're putting yourself more at risk. You are putting more wear and tear on your car. And because the customers are tipping after, you get a lot less tips on Uber and Lyft than you do for food delivery. So I think rideshare is even more important for the pay to increase because I would like to see it being around $45 an hour you could make almost every hour you're on the road with rideshare. Because then after expenses and everything, you would still be making about $22 an hour, I would say, after all expenses. I'm talking even like car depreciation and everything like that. And $22 an hour for essentially a taxi driver profit per hour, I think is fair. But I think you should get paid more as an Uber and Lyft driver because you're risking a lot more. There's random people in your car. So there's that. I mean, that's self-explanatory how it's more dangerous than DoorDashing. Then second of all, you never know what someone might leave in the back of your car. I mean, they could spill something. They could accidentally rip your seat, or they could, whatever it is, you're allowing people into your car, so they could damage something that you would in turn have to pay for. So you're taking on a lot more risk and you're putting more wear and tear on your car. So I just think that the pay for Uber and Lyft should be significantly higher than it is for DoorDash. But with DoorDash, it's extra messed up that you're only getting $2 out of the $10 of fees that the customer is paying for. So obviously, I would love that to change. But the bottom line of all of this, of everything I've been talking about in these videos, is that one, DoorDash does not care. They could not care less. They have so many people wanting to work for them, and all they care about is their top line sales, honestly. That's really it. They just want to take as much market share as possible, and they know they have endless people who are willing to deliver for pennies. So there's that. Second of all, if you don't like how much you're getting paid from DoorDash, then you don't have to work for them. That is the bottom line as well, is If you don't like the orders you're being sent, just keep declining. I mean, only accept what you're willing to do and what you think is profitable for you and your car. They don't force you technically to accept certain orders. It feels like they do because in a sense they've kind of made the algorithm in a way where you do have to accept most orders. So yeah, that's kind of unfair, but again, they don't care and you don't have to accept the orders. You don't have to deliver for them. You can work any other job in the world. There's no barrier to entry. And so they're saying you don't have to do anything and you can get this job. You can work whenever you want, wherever you want, and make a little bit of money. So we don't care that you're complaining about your pay. In their mind, it's like going to the grocery store, buying certain ingredients, making something and being like, oh, I don't want to eat this. And then getting mad at Walmart because you bought the ingredients from them. They're like, well, you didn't have to buy the ingredients to that. Like there's an option of all of these things you get to decide. That's not up to us. We just provide you the platform to purchase groceries. So DoorDash is thinking, we're just providing you the platform. You don't have to work for us. You can accept only $15 orders for 3 miles if that's what you want. Whenever one of those comes your way, you can accept that and not accept anything else. So that's why I don't think any of these strikes or any of this complaining or anything does anything, because DoorDash at the end of the day is just like, don't work for us then. Like we saw from this strike, they will just put out a thing where it's like, we'll give people $800 to $1,200 if you invite someone to come dash for us, and then their problem solved. So it's kind of a never-ending losing battle, and hopefully these videos are just bringing you guys a lot of value. And next video, I'm actually going to be going over things you can do if DoorDash continues to just stay crap. I got a lot of things I'm going to give you guys for how you can make money in other ways, different apps you can use, different strategies that can make you more money on DoorDash, and different things that can completely flip DoorDash into being more profitable for you. And also, if you're just done with the platform altogether, different avenues that you can make even more money than DoorDash. So make sure you stay tuned, make sure you subscribe. I really hope you're enjoying this series. I'm really just trying to give you guys all the information I've learned over the past 6 years, because I get it. It can be tough as a delivery driver. It can be tough as a gig worker. And I think the more information that's out there, the more we discuss things, the better for everyone, so that we can just make our own decisions and figure out what works best for us. Because if we don't have the knowledge, then we can't go and execute something because we're just ignorant to the fact that there's other opportunities out there, or there's other ways to go about dashing to make more money, things like that. So I think the more we just talk about everything, the more we communicate in the comments and all that stuff, the better it is for everyone. So again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the support. I really appreciate it. Remember, I'm doing my first live on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. I'll give you guys more details as the week goes on. But yeah, thank you guys for everything. I'll see you in the next video.